So, just like any good podcast, it's always what happens in the conversation. And for me, with Proven Not Perfect, it's what happens when I click end and the conversation continues with my very special guests and friends. And this one hit me really straight to the heart because we touched on it in the conversation, and the revelation is so compelling, and I believe so potentially healing, so potentially saving to other people. And I think sometimes when we, in particular, hear leaders that we're drawn to for one reason or another, it can't help but be externally driven initially because that's who we are as people. And we see whatever attributes we see and we respond to that. And that usually becomes the doorway for us deciding that we want to know more about them. But the basis of Proven Not Perfect is there's always a story. There's always the pieces that you don't see, that you don't know, that I shared in my first book. And when we said goodbye to you publicly and kept our conversation going, and my dear friend Carol shared with me a little bit more about losing her father as a young girl and her principle for do not give up. Um, I asked her for permission to open the podcast again and just provide a little bit of a snack because I believe conversations have the ability to heal and to save and certainly to bless. And so, with that, Carol, I would love for you to just share a little bit of what you shared with me about why your coaching to others is so precise and specific the way that it is.
Well, thank you, Chandra, for giving me this opportunity to share something very private and very personal. As I told you after we talked, until I was honored enough to receive the inductee to the Florida Tourism Hall of Fame, and I knew I had to give an acceptance speech, and I just was overwhelmed with, as much as I publicly speak, that one I couldn't really figure out what I was going to say. I tossed and turned and at night, and I've held something inside of me my whole life. I didn't even tell my children until they were adults. And I never talk about it. And so I decided if I was ever going to talk about it, that night on stage was the time to do it. And that was that. Yes, I lost my dad when I was very young, 12, soon to be 13. But my dad committed suicide. And it's just something that was so publicly unacceptable, especially at that phase in my life when I was so young. It's much more talked about today than it was back then. And it's what I believe gave me the tenacity. I mean, even at that very young age, like my mom was left with three kids. um, I had to go to work. And at 14, I started waiting tables and I worked at a hotel. My mom had a very dear friend in Orlando that was a hotelier, and he said, let Carol come learn how to work the front desk. So at 14 years old, I'm, you know, taking on jobs that I didn't even realize later in life were going to be what gave me the passion for this industry. But you know, my dad gave up. I mean, when you think about suicide, as much as it kills me to have this conversation, I know and remember my mom feeling like my dad gave up and left her with three kids to raise. And so I just remember being indelibly imprinted in my soul at that young age that I was never going to give up. No matter what cards life dealt me, giving up is not an option. So that night, I shared that and I was surprised. I I waited until a room of close to 1,000 people to tell something I've
Go big.
held
You go
inside
big
of
here.
me. Oh, yeah, if you're gonna go, go big. But the number of people that came up to me that night or sent me texts and cards and emails that, you know, this had touched their life. The suicide touches so many people. You told me about a friend of yours,
Yes.
and you really realize talking about it is what gave some healing to me. My family was there, my children were there, obviously, some healing for them. But also made me realize that that message of never give up resonated to so many people who later told me, I will never give up. You gave me something that I've needed and I needed to hear it. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share something so personal, but it I believe is what made me today the person that I am. And so I appreciate you allowing me to share it.
Oh my gosh, Carol, honestly, I am privileged to open the line. I'm thankful for you allowing me to do so. I think that it is too easy to judge people from the exterior of what we see. And when we truly get vulnerable and we truly share that we're no different from one another, man,
Yeah,
it's different. So I thank you.
that's right.
And
Well, thank you.
I'll talk to you soon. I will really let you.
Okay. Okay.
All
All
right.
right.
Well, enjoy that
All
form.
right.
All right.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Bye, sweetie. Bye.